Welcome back to the second lesson, the second video. And this video will be about kick. Now, the kick is one of the most important sounds in drum and bass, right? If it's good, it can make a track. If it's bad, it can ruin a track. And I want to talk about the process and my thoughts when making a kick, because opinions differ whether a kick is good or bad, but there are certain characteristics a kick should kind of always have to sound good on club systems, for instance. So I will show you guys two methods. One method, I will be using VST plugins and audio effects. One of them is Kick 2. I have it loaded in already. Which allows us to synthesize a kick. You have pitch, amp, the click, like you have your layers, you can choose how they sound. There's probably a really detailed kick tutorial on Sonic Academy, so I recommend checking that out, because it's, if you really know this completely, it's a very powerful tool. And next to this, I would use a sampler, also a VST plugin, for instance Addictive Drums or Superior Drummer. In this case I will be just using the stock drum kit designer from Logic. It's really not that powerful at all, like you can barely do stuff, but I'm not like, this video is not about making the sickest kick ever, but more about the philosophy, the thought behind why I do certain things and why we should do certain things, right? So this should do the job. Because the idea is to have an electronic body with all the power and an organic layer, basically, that gives the kick some kind of acoustic feel, right? Because in drum and bass you want to have a punchy kick, but it should still sound like it could be some kick from an actual drum kit, right? Those kicks are the coolest, because if it's like just a kind of cold electronic kick, it's not gonna sound that nice on drum and bass. Anyways, so you can, or we can start out by just choosing like a preset, because there are good presets here. You can obviously start from scratch, but I only advise it if you really know the plugin. So let's see how these sound like. I'm just gonna open up the musical typing here. Oh, I'm totally in the drum kit. Okay. Alright, so I really like this one, for instance. Now, obviously it depends what kind of drum and bass you're making. Like if you do a dancey track, then one of these will do the job for sure. But let's just take this one. We already see the kind of envelope. Right, so the first thing I look at is the pitch of the kick, right? Which is kind of determined by the tail, because the human ear can't exactly tell the pitch of the very first high frequencies. Like, it's super hard, it's almost impossible. And the sabi part, the tail, which comes here, kind of gives the tone, so it doesn't matter what key this is in, because you don't hear it anyways, but this does, you know. Yeah, you hear the clear tone. So you want to figure out what key you are writing in, right? For instance, in drum and bass, you often have F minor. So you would put this on F, which would be the fundamental, but you can also put it on the third, which would be an A, for instance, or the fifth. Just keep it in key, because that way the sub-frequencies of the kick actually align a bit better with your bass in terms of phase. Like, just imagine if you make a Reese bass and you want to get that oscillating feel. What do? You take two oscillators that are detuned, right? And they are phasing with each other and create that oscillating feel, but obviously you don't want that with your kick and sub. That would be horrible in mix terms. And it's better if they are the same key, right? So you should keep an eye on that, like keep an eye on what key the kick should be. Right, so let's check further. It sounds like this. It should be deeper actually. The next thing is the sub. While this always sounds perfect as a sine, I personally prefer to have something imperfect here. So you can like scroll through different sub presets which give you harmonics. So if you pull this up, you see what it does to actually wave. This sounds interesting, but it's obviously not really desirable. So let's see. Well, just like slightly mix like this already makes it sound just a bit less electronic, I guess. Next step would be to add like another click. Hi-hats do really well with drum and bass. It's obviously all preference, whatever you like, but just to give you an idea what I pay attention to when I'm getting the electronic kick out of kick 2. Like, I'm not spending hours here, but this would be fine, right? So let's just record this real quick. Quantize it. And let's go to the acoustic kick. So let's listen to this. Oh, this is actually on the right. Let's see. Right, you can barely do stuff here actually. Oh, maybe you can, but I've never used it, so. So the most important thing here is the tune, really. You want to make sure that your acoustic kick matches the kick 2 kick. If it doesn't, it's really obvious that you are using layers. So try to get it in the same key. So something like this, right? Obviously this kick's not really sounding that nice, whatever. Right, so for instance this. So just as a matter as an example, I would just bounce this here. Okay. We're gonna get an EQ on here because we don't want the sub of this. Maybe we want this, we'll check in a bit. The other thing is that the acoustic kick often has a lot of room information, which the digital kick doesn't have. So you want to get rid of that a bit, because otherwise you will have a super mono electronic kick and a super stereo acoustic kick, and then you again don't really have a match. Next thing is to just make this a bit shorter. And because we use the attack of, oh, that's not desirable. because we only use the attack of the electronic kick, we're just gonna fade this away, right? Let's see this. Maybe we can do some processing here too. So I think this just is a bit too much. And this one. And then we're just gonna bounce this too. Okay. And now what we can do is we can just bounce these together. And we have a new kick. Wait, there it is. So this would be our kick. Now, how do we process this? We just process it like we do with other kicks. We start with an EQ. Get rid of unwanted frequencies, maybe boost it a bit. The issue now, I'm using headphones which don't really represent the low end that good. But we probably still want a bit here. The next step would be to add a compressor, for instance the Fat Filter Pro C. And in general, you want to have a long attack. You don't want to interfere with the transient. You want to keep the click, like if I put the threshold much down, like you hear. You keep the transient, you keep the click, that's what you want, and you just want to smoothen this dynamic out in the end. So you just do something like this. You can also fool around with the settings, whatever. Next step would be just to give it a bit color. I really love Decapitator from Soundtoys. It's a really great distortion plugin. Check the styles, which one you prefer best, and then you're good to go, basically. And I will see you in the next video on the other method.
Thanks everybody for watching, commenting, and indeed liking. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on our Sonic Academy YouTube channel. So if you found this video super useful, please, we'd love you to hit the subscribe button. We update the YouTube channel every week with new content. And if you want to watch some more relevant content, just click on the videos beside me.